Hello again, I am Blunty, and this is, well, to be right out of the gate with it, I strongly suspect this is a nothing article, a bait article, a troll article, reporting completely pulled out of someone's arse rumour, just for the sake of drumming up some clicks. It is certainly written like it's a CEO optimization piece, but while I'd normally stroll right past a rumour like this with utterly zero supporting evidence or even a vaguely cited source, not even an insider says. But according to InsiderGaming.com, a site I've never heard of, so I guess their bait is working if it is bait, and I quote here, "It is said that Monster Hunter Rise will be coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X and S inside of a few weeks' time." Like, real soon, like next month. The article also claims, in the world's most obvious prediction, if this news has any truth to it at all, that it will be a full 4K 60 port with 3D audio on current-gen consoles. Which, considering it's a port of a Switch game, you'd damn well expect the PS5 and Series X to be able to churn it out at 4K 60. Those machines could do it in their sleep. So, duh. They finish off by suggesting we could see the announcement at the Game Awards, there's that SEO juice, which are about a week away now on December 8th, which is why I feel a bit sus about all this, because Capcom have a long history of, well, not being especially good at keeping secrets when it comes to announcements of this kind around this particular game series. Indeed, the PC port of Rise was leaked many months before it was ever officially confirmed. But anyway, being a week away from an official announcement like this, and this is the only thing we hear about it from a nothing website without a single, even shadowy suggestion at anything credible as a source, I struggle to believe this is fact. However, while the article never once even alludes to who it is said by, and blurps out a bunch of basic wish list crap and calls this SEO bait as a news report, it's not actually unreasonable to think that a port to other consoles is something Capcom haven't at the very least considered, because the game has done very, very well on Switch. It's very, very popular. The player base is still extremely active, including myself. It's reviewed quite highly, and it is of course no longer a Switch exclusive at all, with the PC port having arrived. There's no Nintendo specific DLC or cosmetics that would make its existence on other console platforms seem weird, as can happen with other games sometimes, you know, when they have like a Mario tie-in or something. And as I'll expand on more in a moment, the PlayStation gamers in particular would gobble it up. Well, specifically the Monster Hunter PlayStation gamers, and yeah, I'll tell you more about that why in a minute. But before we get too excited, know this. Capcom are really, really bad, with Monster Hunter in particular, but other stuff, when it comes to things that would make this far more exciting news, if true. Because as it stands, there's no crossplay between PC and Switch, despite it being a PvE-only game and the PC's advantages giving zero unfair advantage for any player in multiplayer. So there's no practical reason why it shouldn't be crossplay, except for perhaps it being a pain in the ass to deal with Nintendo to do that. But then again, other games do it just fine, don't they? But it means whatever player base there would be on PlayStation or Xbox would very, very likely be utterly isolated there, and indeed from each other, because that was the case with World and Iceborne, which did launch on those consoles first. And splintering the player base like that, when the vast majority of the most passionate players are already deeply time invested on Switch, if not the PC, is not going to lead to a healthy multiplayer experience long term, and that is something that this game needs. There's plenty of, single-player content in this game if you want it, but Monster Hunter, from its very first game back in 2004 on the PlayStation 2, was built very, very specifically to be better with multiplayer. It was literally designed around showing off the PS2's online capabilities because, well, that was a new thing for consoles to be able to do. And while last week's title update to Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak did indeed bring in the ability to bring in AI-controlled NPCs along with you on most hunts, that is still not even close to the same joy of real multiplayer. And of course, beyond no crossplay, there's not even any cross-save or the ability to move your account permanently one way or the other. So there's no way to move progress from one platform to another. It's a cold start whenever you move platform with this game, which can be fun, sure, starting from fresh, doing it all over again. There is fun to be had there. I've done it. But for a lot of players, with the number of hours invested similar to mine and with the grind for certain special items and craftables this game asks for, I'd bet there's a fair whack of folk out there who a fresh, cold start would not appeal to. Even if it did mean going from the Switch's less than 1080p and mostly 30 FPS to a crisp and liquid smooth 4K 60. Even me. To illustrate that point, and come back to the PlayStation stuff I was talking about before, Monster Hunter Rise is easily, and by a very, very wide margin, my most played game in the last year and a half. On my main save file on the Nintendo Switch, I've clocked up over 1,340 hours since it released in March 2021. I have a secondary save file over there that I did a gimmick playthrough with for a video once, and it has over 40 hours. And over on Steam, with the game launching on PC in January 2022, I've clocked up 200 hours there. So in total, somewhere in the order of 1,600 hours in about 20 months across two platforms. And if you're wondering why I seem to have forsaken the glory of 4K 60 FPS on PC for spending most of my time on the much more limited Switch, well, frankly, it's mainly because the player base there is way stronger on Switch. More players, and anecdotally through my multiplayer experiences, noticeably higher skilled players than there are on PC. And this will at least be partly down, of course, to the most passionate and engaged Monster Hunter players picking it up on Switch, because that's where it launched first. It was Switch exclusive for quite some time. Anyway, suffice to say, I have a deep love for this amazingly Moorish game. And even now, 20 months after release, it is still being actively grown, with the massive expansion Sunbreak hitting in June of this year, and after that, a feed of regular free title updates feeding out, the most recent one having just dropped about a week ago, as a matter of fact, which included what is now one of my all-time favourite hunts in Risen Kushala Daora. Holy crap, that fight is fun! And they're not even done expanding the game yet, with at least 2 more title updates still scheduled into next year. The support for this game has been huge. So the news that a PS5 and Xbox version might be on the way is enticing, not out of the question, but again, at this point in time, having all the big releases a week away and you haven't heard anything about it yet, just from this nothing site, I struggle. I struggle to take that one without a big old grain of salt. Now, the Monster Hunter community at large tends to be heavy on the PlayStation side, which would make this news very, very exciting. With the game being extremely popular in Japan and the PlayStation, at least before the Nintendo Switch came along, being an extremely popular choice of primary gaming platform. Certainly this was the case with the last Monster Hunter game, Monster Hunter World, and its expansion, Iceborne. The largest majority of the player base lived on PlayStation with that game. It too got a delayed PC release. And there was a lot of noise from those players, those PlayStation players, those Monster Hunter World PlayStation players, when Rise was announced as a Switch exclusive title. They were frustrated and, understandably so, you get it, right? Many lamented the lack of system power holding the game back when compared to the beautiful presentation of World and Iceborne, which itself was a massive leap forward for the game series in general. Some lamented having to buy a whole new different console just to play their very favourite game. Although, considering the incredible popularity of the Nintendo Switch, I don't honestly think there were too many dedicated gamers enjoying the Japanese-made action RPGs like this that didn't already have a Switch, but it was a legitimate concern for some, I'm sure. I just feel like that number was a lot smaller than the other one. And quite a lot of the Monster Hunter fanbase consider PlayStation to be the de facto home of Monster Hunter. The PlayStation is where this series started, and, despite in the intervening years, the series having had several Nintendo platform exclusives before Rise, it kind of felt like this was the home, particularly because most of the current player base came on board when World released. World was a huge deal for Monster Hunter. It was a very niche title, only really well known in Japan before World came along. I mean, some people knew about Monster Hunter in the West, but if you said Monster Hunter to most gamers, they'd go, well, what's that? Some weird Japanese game. But then World came along and everything changed. It was a massive success. And the graphical and mechanical overhaul that game got compared to what came before, making it much more inviting to new players as a whole. And like I said, the player base just exploded with World. It became a genuine global phenomenon of a game. And like I said, most of those players that, came on board with World on PlayStation. Which is why many see PlayStation as, the natural home for Monster Hunter as far as they're concerned. So indeed, of course, there has been a strong call from that player base, especially before and during the launch of Rise on Switch, for a port to at least PlayStation. But when the PC port was announced, with no other consoles alongside it, the player base kind of lost hope a bit, and I think a lot of them gave in and largely stopped begging for a PlayStation port of Rise at all. They kind of gave up hope on even asking for one, instead pinning their hopes on whatever the team behind World was working on for next time, under the expectation that that would come to their platform of choice instead of the Switch. Because Monster Hunter, a lot like Pokemon, has two separate development teams. A separate team made Rise from the one that made World. They kind of tick-tock, take it in turns, giving them more time to develop between releases. And while Rise is out here active right now, the team that made World is hammering away in the background on whatever their next game is. And no, it won't be called World 2, I promise you that. There was another unfounded rumor that was going to be called Monster Hunter World Paradise or something. I don't think I bought that one either. So, if indeed a PS5 and Xbox port is coming, I'm not at all sure that it will draw in a large player base. It might be a fairly niche title on those systems by now. I feel like it's just too late for the PlayStation crowd, and even Monster Hunter World on Xbox was, well, hands up in the down below. Anyone play that game on Xbox? Because I gave it a go, and one of my best friends played it there as their primary platform, and multiplayer there was very often basically dead. And much like the Switch and PC dichotomy, the best players seemed to be on PlayStation during that era anyway. But, if Capcom finally listened to their players, because we have been asking you for this forever, since World and Iceborne, and it got even stronger when the PC release came out for Rise. If they listen to us and implement proper, full, complete cross-save, or better yet, full-on cross-play, so the different communities on different platforms can just play with each other, so the player base is massive and huge and active no matter where you want to play, oh man, it could be a very big deal if they chose to do that. I doubt they will, because again, they've been historically extremely crap at that. So if it does come to the other consoles, it will be their own little tiny islands of player bases, which is going to hold it back, I feel. Let me know how you feel. Let me know which way you'd go. Let me know if you're a PlayStation player who has held off Rise because you don't want to buy a Switch and you don't want to play it on PC, or you don't have a PC good enough for it and you're just hoping for the next Monster Hunter game come out. Would you buy Rise on PlayStation even if it was just you and a tiny island of little other PlayStation players playing it? What if it was included with PlayStation Plus or Xbox Game Pass? How about then? So yeah, there you go. A nothing article about a vague and unsupported rumor, but at least it gave me something interesting to talk about, and I have seemed to have waffled on for quite a bit longer than I expected to be able to with this particular topic, so hooray! Content from nothing. I'm awesome at this YouTube thing, aren't I? Thanks for watching. I am Blunty. Thanks as always to the patrons scrolling above, and I will catch you next time.